News Channel 5 at 10.
A live look over the city of Nashville this evening for our own Sky 5. Thank you so much for joining us. A former Middle Tennessee State football coach blows the whistle on how his team tackled the COVID crisis. It was a crisis that pitted coach against coach and forced the team to end its season early.
Yeah, and as News Channel 5's chief investigative reporter Phil Williams discovered, his story raises serious questions about whether college football did enough to keep players safe.
At a time when our country needed leadership the most, we failed. College football coaches failed miserably.
With a coaching career stretching more than 4 decades, Tony Franklin made a name for himself as an offensive coordinator.
Work it, work it, work it, work it, work it.
He was the coach credited with mentoring Jared Goff, who would go on to a career in the NFL. Coaching for the last 5 years at Middle Tennessee State, Franklin says he watched as COVID-19 ran headfirst into college football's tough-as-nails attitude.
You were concerned that the macho attitude would get someone killed.
Yeah, I still am. Take 5 minutes, get some scissors and some rubber bands.
As the pandemic began, Franklin quickly took to social media to urge players to wear masks and follow the science.
I thought it'd be a couple 3 week deal and we'd get back to normal, but obviously that didn't happen.
Middle Tennessee's head coach Rick Stockstill wasn't as sure. Behind the scenes of the Conference USA team, a battle was brewing between him and his offensive coordinator.
In hindsight, did you not take the virus as seriously as you should?
I took it serious.
Did you wear masks?
Yes, sir.
What's your name? Colin, nice to meet you.
But in June, 3 months into the pandemic, Middle Tennessee posted video of its coaches visiting the homes of boosters. Even indoors, Stockstill was not wearing a face covering.
You can see I had it on. I wore it there.
It was around your neck,
yes,
which does no good.
I know that.
So why didn't you wear your mask when you were in their homes?
Probably should have.
And when Stockstill's son married a social media influencer in Florida, photos posted online showed the coach at a maskless reception. The team's backup quarterback was there too.
In that restaurant, you didn't have to wear your mask when you were eating.
But no one is wearing a mask. There's not even one around your neck.
Yes, sir.
So does that suggest that perhaps you did not take the virus as seriously as you should?
No, sir. I tried to do the best I could.
We had certain players that never wore one, ever.
Coach Franklin says that in the school's poorly ventilated weight room, he would see large groups of players with hardly a mask in sight. On July 8th, during a coaches' meeting, the tension between the two men came to a head.
Just a disagreement.
He says you approached him up close, not wearing a mask?
I may have slipped up, I don't know.
I made the point, Coach, you don't do it right yourself. Everybody knows that you don't. All the players know that you don't. They all see you.
About a week later, just as Franklin had warned, COVID hit the weight room. 3 strength coaches tested positive, then players began to follow.
So I knew it was going to happen. I mean, common sense and science told you can't do what we were doing and it not happen.
One mother texted him, concerned that her son was still not the boy I know prior to COVID, adding it's going to be a slow process to reintegrate him.
And that's when one of the players kept getting sick, but he tested negative. Eventually he went to, his own physicians and they, found out that he had it.
And maybe the gator that Rick Stockstill's wearing, Ross, maybe it'll bring him some luck.
On September 5th, Middle Tennessee kicked off its season against Army.
That is a huge mental mistake.
At this point, Conference USA had imposed requirements for COVID testing 3 times a week. In public, Coach Stockstill and his team did all the right things. But this locker room video obtained through a public records request tells a different story.
When you look at the video, do you see a team that takes COVID seriously?
Yes, sir.
Really?
I had my mask on. The other coaches had their masks.
But the players, Coach.
They just came off. Yes, sir.
They're, in each other's faces, shouting, singing. Is that really a team that takes COVID seriously?
That's when a simple question seemingly turned into a staring contest.
Do you have an answer?
We're following protocol, sir.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
In fact, while the NFL required players to wear masks in their locker rooms, Conference USA had no such rules. The NCAA had left those decisions up to each conference.
There was zero leadership from that organization. It was basically the wild, wild west. Every conference for themselves.
These locker room photos were taken right after what would become Middle Tennessee's last game. The next day, someone tested positive for COVID. With 2 games left, Middle Tennessee decided to end its football season.
We tried to do the best we could.
Was your best good enough?
I can lay my head on the bed at night and know I did the best I could.
More than a third of Stockstill's team ended up testing positive for COVID. As a result of Franklin's complaints, Middle Tennessee ordered an internal review that concluded everything was not perfect, but there was no evidence presented that Coach Stockstill willfully disregarded the COVID-19 protocols put in place. The rest of Stockstill's coaching staff had rallied around him.
420-something thousand Americans are dead. And you want to play this game of I'm following the code of silence of my profession. I'm not going to rat on our coach.
Franklin decided to call it quits. These days, he's on a crusade with at least a few months to go before everyone can be vaccinated, with even more infectious strains now hitting the country.
Everybody thinks college football season's over. It's going to be safe now. Hell no. This is the worst time for college football because they're going back indoors. They're going into the locker rooms. They're going into the weight room again. For the next 4 to 6 months, my goal is to do something to save lives. Do my part all over college football.
Tomorrow, Phil's investigation continues. Were the COVID-19 protocols put in place for college football for real or for show? Again, that's Monday on News Channel 5 at 10.